Okay, inflammation. Thank goodness for inflammation. We need it for many things in our body, and I'll talk about why in a minute or how that works. One really important thing to know is that so many of the diseases that we are all looking to from inflammation, cardiovascular, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and autism, to name a few. And so we definitely want to do everything we can to decrease inflammation in our body. So inflammation plays a major role in healing. It's a natural response that our body needs and wiping out inflammation. You know, there's over the counters and things that we could take about all inflammation and bad. You can almost think of it as like, I think most people at this point know that we have like good bacteria and bad bacteria, and something like an antibiotic wipes out. I don't want to do that. If we say fall and have a cut and scrape our arm, is what causes things like platelets and different chemicals to help make a scab. It's such an important part of healing in our skin, in our gut, in our organs, in our body overall. And so inflammation is super important. The one thing he talks a lot about, so the muffin top in your gut translates into a muffin top in your brain. And so our brain is one of the first things to be impacted by inflammation. And that will show up as, before it shows up as disease, people usually feel it for years, just stacking slowly on itself. He talks a lot in the book about kryptonite, right? So kryptonite doesn't kill you, I don't think, does it? But it slowly starts to chip away at your function, and that's what inflammation does. Again, I think one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves is, are we designed for health or are we designed for disease? If you truly believe that the body is destined to decline as you age, then you're going to be totally fine as that happens. You're going to sit back and you're going to blame it on just getting another year older. There is no reason that that should happen. I firmly believe that every year we just need to do more for our body than to our body. And so Jason and I definitely come from a place of we're designed for health. And so if something isn't feeling right, if something isn't going right, say we get sick or we get hit with something, we do everything we can to help our body get through it. So it's not necessarily like, why is this happening to me? It's what did I do or not do that helped create this process, and what can I do to enhance my health? So I think that's a really important question we can all ask ourselves. Are we designed for disease and sickness, or are we designed for health? We are designed for health. Our bodies are a miracle. And so if we give it what it needs, it's going to give us what we need back. So the brain is one of the most one of the places that's the most impacted by inflammation. There is a huge brain-gut connection that's been proven time and time again by science. The bacteria in our gut is so very important in helping create the right chemicals in our brain, and having that balance of bad bacteria and good bacteria is essential. And so I think that a lot of people used to think we could take these antibiotics haphazardly. We now know that we can't. That's not just wreaking havoc on our immune system, it's literally wreaking havoc on our brain, our neurochemicals, and how we function. And so there was an interesting study in there. It's on page 63 in the book for those of you who have it. And it talks about how the people that have the least amount of healthy gut bacteria have the highest amount of parasites. It used to be thought that we have this, I don't know if you guys have heard this term or not, but something called the blood-brain barrier. And so the blood-brain barrier was always thought to seal off and protect our brain from certain things floating around in our bloodstream. We now know that we don't have as much of a protection as we thought. There are things that destroy the blood-brain barrier that we have in our environment, in our food, in our lives every day. So there's something called leaky gut, a lot of people have heard about, that essentially is affecting that barrier. And so we all know Dave Asprey, he's big on bulletproof coffee and bulletproof tea. One of the things he talks a lot about is grass-fed butter. And one of the amazing properties of grass-fed butter is not only the great fats that you can get and the vitamin A, but it helps make a short-chain fatty acid called butyrate. And butyrate will literally get in there and plug those holes in the gut. Some of you guys have seen one of the things I put in my shake, Clearvite. There's some supplements and things that we can add in as well that help block those holes. Restore is a product we talk about a lot. That helps restore the blood-brain barrier and the cells that stick together to protect the gut and the brain as well. So a lot of things that Dave talks about are really big for maintaining that barrier, which is huge. So something else that we can do that lowers inflammation is we can stimulate something called mTOR, big, long, fancy name. We can just call it mTOR. One of the best things that does that, fasting. So fasting helps decrease mTOR, which is actually what we want. An increase in mTOR has been linked to cancer. So just to be clear, we want lower mTOR, fasting lowers mTOR, increased mTOR causes cancer. They've made that link. So good job, guys, you're doing fasting. Another really important thing that he talked about in this section is light, right? So light has a major effect on inflammation and on our cells. There's something mentioned called easy water. So everybody knows that we're made up of mostly water. Literally 99 out of 100 molecules in our cells are water. The quality of the water is super important. And our cells need something called easy water. Mitochondria love easy water. So easy water is essentially negatively charged. And the more negatively charged we can make our cells, the better they're going to communicate. So the more crystal clear the messages are, the happier the mitochondria are, the better we feel. You guys probably all notice this when you go to the beach. You spend time at the beach, you leave there so exhausted. This summer, literally, Jason and I went to the beach. We took the kids. We went there, and there was just a lot of stuff going on, and we were feeling kind of ramped up, a little bit stressed. We left the beach, and I literally said out loud, I was like, I feel so relaxed. Going to the beach, grounding, earthing, touching the earth is one of the best ways to stimulate easy water. So that's really important. I had one of my favorite schools in one of my favorite especially as an adult, we get in our car, we drive to work, we touch the pavement of the parking lot, we walk on the sidewalk to our building. So you're touching the ground, but you're not touching like grass, dirt, any like real part of the earth. We go into our offices, we walk around in our office, we take that same sidewalk home, we go into the car, we touch our driveway, we're in the house. Think about through your day if you can touch grass. Like literally there's a therapeutic strategy now, it's called earthing. It's very simply just touching the earth. It massively causes a negative charge to our cells, makes our mitochondria so very happy. For people like us who live in the Northeast, this time of year, earthing is not exactly that easy. And so what a lot of people are doing is getting something like a grounding mat. There's even earthing soles I've seen people put in their shoes. I don't know, I haven't personally tried those things. What I tend to like to do is I use light exposure. So I do infrared light, UV light exposure in order to help my body create easy water. Those are the other really, really effective ways to bring in that negative charge. So I love being outside. It definitely helps balance me, and I definitely feel it in the winter when I can't. And what I incorporated last year was infrared sauna, the red bed, red light, and it made such an impact. And so for me now, those are the tools that I'm using. They're super helpful. Another thing that we can do, remember our eyes have a lot of mitochondria. We do happen to live in a really sunny area, which I love. I'm so thankful for that here in New Jersey. But blocking the sun from our eyes Although I know there are reasons that that's beneficial, giving your eyes exposure to some of the light, particularly morning and evening sunrise, sunset light, is super healthy and super helpful in making easy water. So NASA is now actually studying light, like red light, infrared light, UV light, and they're proving you're going to see a lot more of this. Recovering faster. It has a dramatic decrease in inflammation, and it helps us produce ATP and energy faster. I've also definitely noticed that. I happen to play around a lot in our red bed. It's one of its selling points is help make ATP. The way that I feel during my workouts is black and white different when I'm using that thing. So not that you have to. There's other things that you can do, but getting outside definitely important. I encourage you touch the grass, even if it's just for a few minutes, but get your feet on grass. If you have kids, get outside. If it's cold, bundle up. That outside nature air is just essentially what we're meant to have. You don't have to spend money to incorporate these strategies that help your mitochondria. We have access to them simply in our outdoors. And it's scientifically showing us why these things are essential. I don't think any of us really need that to know that we feel better when we're spending time outdoors, but in effort to help your brain function at a higher level and help make your mitochondria super strong, please touch the grass, get some light, breathe in some fresh air, watch those foods that make you inflamed. You can actually, we also talk a lot in our office about functional medicine blood testing. I'm going to pull Jason in on a video in a second here, and we're going to talk about what that is, because you can have your inflammation levels checked in traditional blood work, and you can also have them checked in functional medicine blood work. There's a lot of things that we can look at in functional medicine labs that are going to show up totally different and are going to give us a major window into your health that wouldn't typically be seen in traditional blood labs. So similar to how Dave talked at the beginning of the book, he had all this stuff going on in his brain. He wasn't feeling well. He knew something wasn't right. However, all his traditional doctors say everything's fine. There was a ton that he could do when he looked towards the right kinds of tests, objective measurements, and labs and things like that. And so that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to pull Jason in, and we will do a video on functional blood labs and what that can tell you and how it may help you. But get outside, get some light, get some morning light and some evening light. Look at that beautiful sunrise and sunset. Look at all that red, orange light. That is what we are so intended to have, and get as much of it as you can and see how you start to impact your mitochondria.